Greetings, humanity! Only an hour late, but moving fast. Welcome. I'm Jim. I use he, him pronouns. And today we are finally playing this month's third and final one-shot of In a Wicked Age. It is a sword and sorcery RPG by D. Vincent Baker. This game predates Apocalypse World by a few years. I'm going to go clockwise on my screen and let folks introduce themselves. Since we're going to be building the scenario and characters, we don't, as part of this whole thing, we don't know for sure what everyone's playing yet. So instead of saying who they're playing, I'm just going to ask each of them to tell us one favorite piece of media in the sword and sorcery genre, or just fantasy generally. It can be a book, a game, a movie, a song, whatever they like. Nox, hello! Tell us, who are you?
I am Nox on the internet. You can find me on Twitter at NoxNoctua. I play in as many games that I have the energy for and that I can weasel my way into. And I also run, right now, just one game on my channel, Fable Tales, on Twitch, every other Saturday. The game itself is using the Fantasy Age system in their Blue Rose setting, and we've all been learning that one together, and I think are finally in a place where we actually know what the hell we're doing. So the game is going a little smoother now. Yeah, that's what I do.
And what is your favorite piece of sword and sorcery or fantasy media?
So I don't have any favorites sword and sorcery media. Sword and sorcery has not ever really been a genre that's actually appealed to me, believe it or not.
First time for everything. No worries. What's your favorite? Anything in fantasy? Or? Yeah.
Yeah. So I did have a backup. So I've had this book. This is the very first fantasy novel I ever read. It's called The Dragonstone by Dennis L. McKiernan, and he made like a bunch of books all in this setting, this world of his. But you can see, it's obviously well loved. But I think I bought this when I was in like middle school or something. And you can see like how aged, like the pages are like brown now. They used to be white. But yeah, this shit was like what got me into fantasy as a genre. It's not breaking any like molds or anything. It's super true to standard, fantasy. They go off, there's a mage and there's a fighter and they fight a dragon and whatever. But yeah, that was my first foray into fantasy. And so I've kept that book ever since.
Awesome. That is very cool. And moving on to William. Hello.
Hello. I am William. My pronouns are they, them, and here I am.
And you have thank you very much for subbing for us at the last minute. Do you have like a favorite piece of fantasy or sword and sorcery media that you like a lot?
I would say my favorite is probably, well, I'm a cheat a little. It's more like two. I quite like kind of an interest in special effects and visual effects, and my favorites are probably of the Harryhausen.
Oh, cool.
So Clash of the Titans and
yes.
I just had the second one on the tip of my tongue, but his works, those fantasy works are probably my favorites.
He did like was it one or two of the Voyages of Sinbad and
yes, there was a Sinbad movie.
Jason and the Argonauts.
Yes, that was the one I had forgotten. Thank you very much. Yes.
Classic. Awesome. I got really excited when I saw that they when I saw that they were remaking Clash of the Titans, and then I saw it and I was no longer excited, unfortunately.
Yeah, it a little nostalgia, a little of the other factors, but
yeah,
it's just not really as good.
No, sadly no. And finally, Will, hello.
Hello. I'm Other Will, playing with Other Doc. I'm a perma GM who occasionally gets to play stuff, so this is kind of fun. As far as a sword and sorcery thing, I'm going to go international and go with wuxia films. I just I just dig all of that stuff. The popular ones like Crouching Tiger and Hero, and but then there's also a lot of less well-known ones that are, production's maybe not as good, but the story's just as goofy and fun.
Cool.
What would be your top recommendations for someone who is unfamiliar with the genre?
Probably Hero. It's one of the big productions. What's kind of neat about it is that it presents kind of the same story in a bunch of different perspectives, kind of a Rashomon kind of thing. So you kind of get to see how the same thing plays out in a bunch of different themes. I love it. Good stuff.
Cool.
It's been a long time since I've seen that. I need to see that again. When I think of wuxia, I always sort of go back to Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, but then I did recently get to see a couple of the ones with... All right, names have all fallen out of my head, so let's move on. Some of the ones with that guy who does stuff. That one, you know the one I'm talking about.
He's the best.
Yeah, isn't he? He's great. Anyway.
Big fan of film.
Definitely. So something that I wanted to go over, just for the folks who are playing today, is that since this genre does tend to get kind of rough from time to time, and I just got to make sure that I'm checking myself. I am gonna make use of the X, N, and O cards for this. So we're using Zoom for the video for this, and we've got a Zoom chat. So if in there at any point, if there's something that you want us to do, like one would do the X card, you can go ahead and Zoom chat and just type an X. And that basically just means this is a thing that's like a triggering thing that we've stumbled across, so you need to back up and rework it, do something else. And we can do that, no questions asked. The end card is more of a fade to black situation, where it's like you're okay with the thing being there in the game, but you'd rather not go into detail about it. And so if you have a situation like that, then just type an N in the chat. That's fine. The O card is kind of more of a thing where it's like if you look like you might be very angry or distressed, but in fact you're just role-playing and you're enjoying it in the chat, you would type an O, yes, please, hurt me more, that kind of thing, basically. Or sometimes actually more specifically, what I might do is if I describe something that I then afterwards I immediately think, oh crap, that was kind of bad, I'll put an O and a question mark in the chat, so that it's like, is that all right? Is that okay, folks? Just to check in with everyone and make sure that I didn't horribly scar anybody. And so that's basically, those are just essentially the tools that we shall be using for that. I've actually been using them for the previous games. We kind of had a bit of a timing issue with the sort of organizational timing issue with this last session, so I just figured just tell it on the stream. We're fine. And so that's kind of how we're going to be going with this. Now, this is a one-shot, but each session of In a Wicked Age does build on the previous sessions. And so here I have a litany that storytellers use to tell the story of the world up until this point, which I am pulling up right now. Long ago, when humanity overthrew and put down its stewards, the celestial giants, they spent an age fighting the restless dead, who some said had emerged only because of the giants' vile magics. In those days, the gods favored mankind. They aided them in bringing the world into balance. Such was the way of things until an order of wizards grew too ambitious in their desires and brutally slew Erish, the child of Shamash Andul of the Two Faces, the god of life and death. Erish reincarnated as a powerful lich, leading an army of the dead to conquer the living, issuing in the Age of Death. The humans of the lands were enslaved. They labored for centuries under the yoke of their undead masters. In time, however, the undead relaxed their grip, withdrawing from some of humanity's territory and allowing them to rule themselves, provided that they did not return to their aggressive ways. For many, this was a time of trouble and desperation, For while mankind had newfound freedom, it was a controlled one, always under their former ruler's watch. The era became known as the Age of Fear. But this age too came to an end. The means of scrying by which the undead kept their eyes upon the humans began to fail. The mystical chain was broken first in the city-state of Port Moray. The breach led to a confrontation with ghouls who had long been dormant beneath the city. They erupted forth from the ground, terrorizing the populace. The city's residents forced the creatures back by turning their magics against them. This victory inspired many to fight back in an effort to regain humanity's former place in the world. The Age of Retribution had begun. The people learned new, untapped brands of sorcery, some of them long forbidden arts, a select few of which placed them in contact with twisted entities beyond their ken. The city-state's guild houses banded together for the first time, uniting to push back the looming presence of the undead. Other cities followed suit, and soon humanity held a great deal of new territory, and the valuable resources that came with it. But with these resources also came new conflict. Some of it was with the undead, but much of it was between warring human city-states. Ideologies clashed. There were many who believed some of their neighboring nations had gone too far with their darker rituals, handing their destinies over to demons or strange gods. Sensing the increase in power, magical beasts once again stalked the lands, a few of the smarter ones raising armies of their own. This age shows no sign of drawing to a close, and it grows ever bloodier. Resources have improved, but are not infinite, and nations make war with each other at the drop of a hat. It is a very tense time, and the desire for conquest only grows in the hearts of every city-state. It is an age of legions, an age of violence, an age of ruthless subjugation. It is, in truth, a wicked age. And that's the litany.
Dun, dun, dun.
And that's basically referring to stuff that happened in the last two sessions. There's no need to really know that stuff or have seen them. But for those of you who are playing this and are in Roll20, if you would like to learn more about what happened, then I've provided a sort of a glossary that the audience cannot see, but which is just sort of sitting there off to the left, drifting off to the left of the O list, which is something the audience can see should we begin using it. The way that this game works, we draw 4 elements from an oracle, a list of different setting details that we'll be using as the prompts here to piece together the scenario. The oracle we're using for this session is God Kings of War. I got together with the players from last week's session, and you can see the elements we drew to the right of my window. And so let's go ahead and get this thing started. So first part of the session is always brainstorming, where we figure out stuff about the world currently, about the characters, and see kind of where we can go with it. So the oracles, which everyone who's watching this should be able to see, but I will go ahead and I will read them out once more, for that is how we do things here. The oracles were a prodigy mage, still a maid, drunk with occult power, a youth or maiden, the reincarnation of a great hero, whose soul remembers glory, an altar to devils of the waste, stinking with gore, and the head of a high war captain in a carved wooden cask. And now from that, we draw the characters that might be possible, that to play to have either as PCs or as NPCs for this scenario. We had the prodigy mage is a possibility, the youth with the reincarnated soul, the devils of the waste. Those are possible characters. Whoever might be carrying the cask, whoever has beheaded the war captain, or the war captain who might not necessarily be out of this yet. No use lying down on the job just because you're dead. Not in this setting. So those are the possible characters we have, and so I'm wondering, does anyone have any thoughts?
So in this game, you can, from what I read, based on the Oracle stuff, you can basically kind of come up with any character
Yeah, you can.
loosely tied even to the Oracle entries.
Yeah, you can play pretty much anything. You can change the stuff that even in the Oracle entries, as far as I'm concerned. You can change the types of people they are. I'm not really going to hold the genders or anything like that. Whatever you want, we will, as long as it is something that we feel will make sense in the context of the setting, we're fine.
I kind of like the Devils of the Waste. I think that would be a fun character to kind of run counter with other player characters.
Sure, absolutely. Can totally be a Devil of the Waste if you so desire.
I'm kind of interested or curious about the Headless War Captain. I think that could be interesting.
Would you be interested in playing the War Captain or playing someone involved with the War Captain, or what are you thinking?
Initially, I was thinking perhaps someone related to, like a brother or son.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd totally work. So yeah, that's those are definite possibilities. Knox, have you thought about someone that might be interesting that you might want to play drawn from this list?
So the names from the past, those can be used too, right?
We can use basically those are characters that some of the other folks played before, so we can resurrect them or elements of them or have characters connected to them if you so desire.
What I'm thinking, so the name of this one is what was it again? Like the God Kings or something like that.
Okay, so Shamash Andul is a deity with two faces, and their child is Erish. The deity with the two faces was... Oh, you're asking about the Oracle.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. The Oracle is God Kings of War.
Okay. What I'm thinking of is... the youth with the reincarnated soul, but their reincarnated soul is like a manifestation of the orrery of the celestial sphere.
Ooh, that'd be interesting. So yeah, the orrery was appeared briefly in the first session. It was an orb that had basically a map of the stars overlooking the realm of the gods, and that was how they communicated with the gods. Do you want to say that the orrery was itself sentient, and this is now in a person? Do you want to do that?
Yeah, if that works.
Totally fine. In this game you can play pretty much anything, so
I think what I'm thinking of is like something about the essence of it, whatever. It's not a sentient object in the sense of like you could talk to it, but it has its own will, and that will is what allowed this thing to be reincarnated into this person's soul or whatever.
Nice.
Therefore, like bestowing the powers of the sphere on this person.
I love it. No, that's great. That's totally
and I think just because I'm on a roll, so shut me up when I've gone too far.
By all means, keep going.
I think like her skin like has like star patterns on it.
I love that so much. Cool, awesome. Okay. So I think we kind of have a very basic grasp on the sorts of characters we're sort of interested in. Let's sort of figure out how everything's connected here. So we have, and that is going to be the youth that's a reincarnation the reincarnated youth. Sort of in this case, just an incarnation of the orrery. And now the Prodigy Mage, is that also one of these characters, or is that a separate character, do we think? Is that someone else that's in play, or is that one of these other characters?
Oh, don't you take over basically everybody that a player doesn't take?
Yes, I do, and so they can be in separate characters and NPC. But the other cool thing about these oracles, we can combine them if we want to. So for example, the youth could also be the Prodigy Mage if we wanted that to be the case, or one of the Devils of the Wastes could be the Prodigy Mage if we wanted, or one of the there could be the Devils of the Wastes could be the War Captain. Looking for its missing head. There are many possibilities if we want to do that. Or like I said, we could keep them all separate and just have a bunch of NPCs. I have no problem either way.
I guess I would lean more towards separate, just because I think it makes a nice web of sort of interacting communication.
Yeah, I'm fine either way. But we all collaboratively come up with the scenario. So as far as the rest of the characters go, what we still need to do is sort of talk out kind of how the scenario is going to be put together, the starting scenario, and then we'll sort of see where it goes. So, do we think any of the characters? So the Prodigy Mage is probably a separate character. This is someone, a young person drunk with occult power, and let's see. I can easily see that connecting to the altar with the devil, to the Devils of the Waste, possibly. What do we think?
Yeah, I could see that being someone. This mage being someone who's trying to attain more power by use of this altar, or speaking with the devils that reside near it.
Yes. So
the devils who are all too happy to oblige.
Oh yes, definitely.
Impressionable young prodigy mages.
Yeah. So, a question for William.
Yes.
You are someone who is somehow related to the beheaded war captain?
Yes, that was kind of an idea I had earlier. I was thinking some sort of, I don't know what the term is, but someone who's a falconer or a beastmaster of some kind, possibly, helping people through places or, hunts, and is related to this war captain, yeah.
So are you carrying the cask with the head of it in there?
I could do that for sure. It is, we'll say son. So yeah, it's my father's head.
So is this like a procession, like a caravan, like they're taking the war captain somewhere?
Yes, I think so. I think probably to a resting place, unless someone there is convinced that there's some means by which could put that head back on a body.
Oh no, what if we're going to the altar? It all comes back around.
I like it.
I think it's definitely probably on the way to the resting place. Probably something that someone in this caravan is convinced could be used instead of just laying him to rest. Sure.
I suspect strongly that whoever is making use of the altar is probably has thoughts in this direction, and has anticipated that this caravan is heading toward some sort of tomb.
Sure.
Also, importantly, if these and actually, let me go ahead and address this. If these are living humans that are making up this caravan, then they'll probably have put certain protections in. There are certain rituals probably around death, given the way this world has been. That's actually a good question. Are these humans or are these something else?
The folks in the caravan, or
Yeah, the caravan folk.
oh yes. I think
Okay.
I think they're all human.
All right. So yeah, there probably be some very specific rituals that have to be put in place when someone this important dies. That probably, I'm guessing, might have something to do with the fact that they're carrying the head in that wooden cask. I'm imagining the cask has been magically treated in some way.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, because this is a thing where this is basically a world where there is a very precarious balance between the living and the dead. I think we're going to say that the god of life and death has once again turned their faces away from the world at this point in history.
So here's the thing, though. Is I can communicate with the gods.
Oh, that's true. You are the orrery, so you totally have their ears.
I have their mailing address, so it doesn't matter if they block me or shut their phone off. I'm fucking finding their ass.
You can override their social media preferences.
I have their passwords.
So yeah, actually, that's pretty much. That means that you, in many ways, even narratively, can kind of sort of say what it is the gods are thinking at this point, to an extent. Yeah, basically. This very collaborative narrative thing is the way this whole thing works. So maybe there's so I mean, it's really pretty much, you'd probably know more than anyone else whether humanity has to worry about that kind of thing right now. Let's see. So we have an altar to the devils of the wastes that is probably somewhere between the battlefield, I'm guessing, and the tomb, which is where this procession is taking place. We have, sorry.
What Will, what did you pick again? I've already forgot.
The devils of the waste,
Okay.
for whom the altar has been built.
Yes. So I think that since the Prodigy Mage is an NPC, I think it would be interesting if they were already in contact with the devils. And so maybe they are setting up something to happen.
It's lunch delivery.
Yes. So in many ways, I'm almost this scenario. I feel like this scenario is building itself. Okay, this is good, which is a good sign.
But no. We're going to get to the burial grounds, and it's going to be fine. There's going to be no interruptions from any devils or demons.
Nope.
No
We're gonna have
there.
we're gonna have a picnic. The wedding's gonna be great.
No problems whatsoever.
We're gonna sing Amazing Grace. It'll be wonderful. So so I have another thought. Is if in this time, like, the gods have turned their head to, like, everybody, but people that have this special ability to communicate with them, which in my mind I imagine that it's not just like my person. There's spread out, but they are rare. You know, that a person like this would be a sought after resource. So in my mind, like, maybe my person is traveling with the caravan because I'm going to be able to, like, you know, reach out to the gods and say, hey, please take this person to the afterlife. They were honorable and good. They were a great warrior, a great father, blah, blah, blah. But maybe the devils are like, no, we want you to talk to these other gods for us and open up the gates of hell or whatever. So maybe there's, like, a point of tension there.
Yes, totally. I can totally see that.
I'm gonna be She-Ra.
It's entirely possible.
So that's just an idea.
I like it.
It's good. It's good. What I'm thinking is that basically, there's they might revere you as a sort of oracle in a way. I was actually going to leap up and look and see I was going to look up because oracle is already a term in there. I was looking for synonyms. And unfortunately, thesaurus.com has let me down because it's only thinking in terms of that. I know the Roman term is the Sibyl. That was one term. Prophet, augur. Do you want to diviner? Do you want to be any of these sorts of titles, or?
I think that she just goes by the orrery.
All right.
And I think she's also like a child.
Ooh.
She's like 13 years old, and she wears like robes with stars and shit on them, and like very jewelry that represents the planets and things like that.
Does she also have a like a regular name aside from that, do you think, or is she just the orrery?
I think she's just the orrery for that's her business name.
That's her business. So that's what's on her business card.
Mm-hmm.
Does she also have? I mean, does anyone know her personally? Does she have more of a? Does she have like an actual name, or is that unknown?
She does, but I don't know what it is right now.
No, that's all right. No, that's fine. We don't have to know it immediately. For those who, and actually, I was just getting ready to pull up this document as it happens. The game has suggestions for names for folks who are looking for them. Generally, they go with like older sort of Babylonian or Assyrian type names, Berber names, what have you. I'm going to kind of be drawing from that and sort of mutating them from the back of the book. But I mean, feel free to come up with any name origin you desire. This is not limited to all that. It's just sort of more of a flavor thing than anything else. So let's see. Yeah, so that's probably why that's good. So that's why the orrery is with them. And the war captain's son, who probably, I'm guessing, also does the war captain's or son or the war captain's descendant. What are we going with? Are we going with about how old do you think they are? Do they have like a rank?
They might have like a rank in the military. Yes. I think probably not very old. 18, something like that.
Okay. Cool. Are they? Do they have an important position, or are they just basically is just that their father was an important war captain, a high war captain?
I think probably just like it's almost a ceremonial title because, like I mentioned, more of a kind of work with animals and help people in other places, not necessarily militarily, and so it's really just like it's a meaningless rank. It's just like an honorary title.
Okay. No, that's perfectly fine. Okay. And let's see. As far as the devils go, Will, did you have in mind like a particular? Are you going to be like the lead devil on this particular engagement, as it were, for the?
I'm going to be the whole bunch of them.
So you are a horde of devils.
Yes, devilry is a team-based activity.
Teamwork. Good, excellent.
And my thought for them is that they're sort of mostly, phantasmal. They're not like little lizard men running around. They're mostly, in a spirit form, and they act by sort of whispering lies in the ears of people that can hear them, and can evade dreams, that kind of thing.
Okay, cool. I totally see that. All right, excellent. This is coming along very nicely. Excellent. Good, good. All right. So do you have... so yeah, let me actually go ahead then and pull up the name information before we... just so that I have it in front of me. Before we get fully into the whole building aspect here. Let's see. I go to here, and then I click on that, and that opens the document for me. Yay. Or it's supposed to. Where did it go? It went away. There we go. All right. So, I guess let's go ahead then and look over the characters' sort of information themselves. Do you, William, did you have an idea for what your character's name might be?
Yes, I believe his name is Hadir.
Hadir.
Yes.
Ah, interesting. That is, okay, cool. Are they, the funny thing about that is, there's, there actually was, last session, there was an NPC also named Hadir, but it's a very old name, a lot of folks could have it. But
I hope nothing terrible happened to Hadir. And,
not really, it was more, they were already dead when the whole thing started. But they were they were a
so yeah,
very old...
he's fine.
Yes, no, it's perfectly fine.
Change in direction for him. He stayed dead.
Yes.
Well, you know, the best part about starting dead is it can't get much worse.
That's true. You'd think that. So yeah, no, there was a Hadir. If any records remain, it would be of a wizard who was once in an order that helped maintain the balance of life and death back in the days when Shamash Andul's life aspect, Andul, was facing the world, and when humanity had more of an upper hand with everything. But at this point, also, William, you will also get to name the war captain if you so desire.
all right.
And if you have a name for like the whatever band, war band or nation you're part of, you can feel free to. You folks can, anyone actually, feel free to come up with that if you wish. Will, is there like a special name for the devils, or are they just unknown or unknowable, or just the devils, or what have you?
No, I'm thinking something like gesh, the stress over the shh,
Gesh.
the sound of gravel rolling down a hill is basically what I'm going for. Gesh.
Excellent. The Gesh. Cool. Excellent. This is, I'm partially excited about this because we haven't actually, in the last two sessions, it's all been undead. We haven't gotten into devils yet. It's awesome. Let's see now. Okay. Let's get into the actual shaping of the characters, so that we have them set up here. I can see that, so as far as NPCs go, it looks like I'm going to need to have the Prodigy Mage, and that's actually maybe about it. If Will's handling all the devils, then that might be that. Maybe if there are something happens with like the spirit of the war captain or something, I might need to produce something for that. But we'll see. Troops, individual troops, because I assume this is this procession includes like both civilians and military, so I'll probably need to prepare that. Okay.
What about like the altar itself?
The altar could be a character if the altar is actually. What are you thinking?
Similar to how I was thinking about the orrery, where It's not you can't walk up and talk to the altar, but it has drives. Those drives, it tries to push its will on other people. So whether or not that's the devils or anyone else that happens to get too close or whatever.
I have a thought about that, in fact. Let me see. Yes. Yes. I know who the altar is. Okay. Excellent.
Well, and that could actually be one of the devil's best interests, then, is to satiate the altar so that it can get away. Yes,
the altar cries out for escape. It cries out for a life, a very important life that it can consume. Let's get into the actual building of these characters so that we can have that ready. As folks may be aware, let me go to the thing here and actually pull this up. That will help. We have 6 different forms or approaches that characters use in this game. They are covertly, directly, for myself, for others, with love, and with violence. These are the stats that are used whenever a conflict happens. A conflict only happens when one character tries to do something and another character wants to prevent them from doing that. That is the only time we go to the dice. And conflicts have a very specific thing. They happen in 3 rounds. The loser of the conflict generally will lose a die type from a couple of their stats. So you have 6 dice to distribute among these six attributes. You have a D12, a D10, a D8, 2 D6s, and a D4. And so what you can do is, I believe you've all grabbed character sheets there, so you can go ahead and put those in, if you have not already, in those under those attributes. And we'll also be talking about the other things I've got in there as well. You'll see a thing in there for advantage, which during the course of a conflict you can get the advantage, which means you get an extra die, an advantage die. That is a D6 that you get to roll and add to your highest total in subsequent rounds, if you hold on to it. And then you also have a particular strength, which we will get into in a moment, but I don't want to get too far ahead at this point.
It's probably worth pointing out that every action you use 2 forms when you do it. So if you're going to poke somebody with a spear, that's going to be like directly with violence. But if you're going to sneak up and stab them in the ear when they're asleep, then that might be covertly with violence.
Exactly. Or if you're doing it, say, in fear for your life, if someone is attacking you and you're just trying to save your own ass, it could be for myself and with violence. It's really that is the thing I really like about the system, is it's more really about your motivations. So that's kind of how these things play out. Sorry, go ahead.
So the way to set up this in Roll20 is in the character sheet in the attributes and abilities tab. Underneath abilities, edit those directly.
Yes. So
where it says like D4 or whatever.
Yeah, where it says you go into hit the little pencil and it'll say D4. Just change the number.
Gotcha.
And then hit the check mark. That's all you have to change in there, and then it'll roll and it'll show that being rolled.
So it was a D12, a D8, 2 D6s. Am I remembering that right?
Yeah. And a D10 and a D4.
Oh, a D10, okay.
So basically all of the dice that you get in a set that you, if you were to buy a set of dice, everything but the D20.
Gotcha.
Yeah, assuming you're not shopping in the Zachi aisle.
Yeah, I was gonna make a DCC reference.
Yeah. Ha ha! I beat you to it!
It don't.
I've played DCC before. I know where this can go. So how are we on our on filling out our various forms?
I'm done.
Mostly filled out. Just have to decide where this D12 goes.
Okay. Well, where did you decide where did you put your D12? Just out of curiosity.
Covertly.
Covertly.
Of course you did.
That works well for
Yeah.
us.
I figured my lowest needed to be with love and for others.
Sounds about right.
Because that's not how devils roll.
Devils. That worketh. That definitely worketh. I'm going to be filling out shortly these NPCs, NPC stats. NPC stats are a little bit different. NPCs only have 3 forms, and I just assigned 2 dice to each, and so they have action, maneuvering, and self-protection. That's going to be what they use. So I only use 1 form in any challenge they get involved in, and so that oft is how it goes.
I was gonna say I was done.
Okay, cool. I'm going to go ahead and start talking a little bit about the next part, which is your particular strength. Now, every character can have a thing that they're particularly good at. It could be unusual skills, magical arts, innate powers, allies, and treasures. It can be anything narratively interesting about your character. Basically, if later a bard was telling this story about your character and wanted to point out something really cool about them, this is that thing. And so it's it can be any number of things, just anything that is that your character that you want to bring into play narratively for your character. And so that is you each get 1 particular strength. It could be a lot of different things. There are a number of different possible. There's one of these following things you can do with them also. Before I list them out, I'll say your default dice for a particular strength is a D8. You get, if you're in a conflict and you're using your particular strength, which can only be used usually with one of the forms. So, for example, if you have one that goes with violence, you can only use it when you're rolling with violence, and then that's if narratively if you've used it in the fiction. So
how are these phrased in like a sentence, or a short phrase, or a word?
You can do that way if you like. For example, I've had folks who had particular strengths. Then a couple of sessions ago, their particular strength was knives. They had a bunch of knives, and they were really good with them. Thievery, I've had that be the thing. Then sometimes it's been like someone has psychic abilities, or someone has an ability to control a particular element. So the options that you have with it are that it can be potent, which means that instead of a D8, then the die is a D10. It can be broad, which means that you get to use it with a second form. You can use it with more than just one of your attributes. It could be consequential, which means that if you use it and you win a conflict, it actually threatens, in addition to whatever 2 attributes go down that they would have had regularly. This does it a 3rd time, and so it can take out a 3rd attribute or a 2nd attribute twice. It could be unique, which means that no one else in the world has anything like this. your character would be the only one. Or it could be far-reaching, which means that the strength can be used beyond normal human reach. You don't have to be in the room to necessarily use it. So, again, if, for example, you have a sort of a clairvoyance type power where you can see things happening at a great distance, that would need to be far-reaching. Similarly, let's say you have a huge band of thugs or soldiers that you can call on to use as kind of part of your character's thing. Then if it's not far-reaching, then they're only going to be useful when you're, in the same place where you are. But if they're far-reaching, you can send them wherever you like, and they can do things while you're doing other things. That kind of thing. So those are your options: potent, broad, consequential, unique, or far-reaching for your particular strength.
So I went with with forked tongue, which is an extra ability to speak lies and have truths through dreams and moments of weakness.
Ooh, nice.
So the forms are covertly, and I didn't quite understand why I wanted one for NPC forms, but I picked self-protection for NPCs.
Okay, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that is something that only usually comes into play over multiple sessions, but can come into play if something is happening where an NPC is acting on something that you're doing and you're actually the one rolling. That could happen at some point. So that could come into play maybe. It's going to vary. It's going to vary on a couple of things. As far as NPC forms and particular strengths go, that's more something to pay attention to if you choose one that is consequential. That's more where you'd pay attention to if it also affects an NPC form.
Okay, and then for significance, I went with far-reaching, and so my thinking here is that the devils are pretty much everywhere in the waste. So anyone in the waste can be affected. The range doesn't reach out past that. But within the waste, wherever you are, the devils can whisper to you or invade your dreams or that sort of thing.
Sounds good. Sounds very good. That makes total sense to me.
I went with maintain balance. And the significance is far-reaching. And the trait it would be used with would be for others. So what I'm kind of envisioning with that is that she has sort of a sense of if the gods or those that utilize the power of the gods maybe overstep their ability to affect things in the world. So let's say like a god descends and decides he wants to wipe out a city. To her, that's like a great abuse of his power and way tipping the scales of balance in favor of the gods. And so that would allow her to counteract that in some way. Whether it means like sending the god back, or maybe raising all of these dead people that he slaughtered, or stripping a god of some kind of power, or chaining him up temporarily, just kind of shit like that.
Yeah, that totally works. So let's see. William, did you think of a particular strength?
Yes, I was thinking, and maybe this will need a little workshop just because I don't completely understand it, but I was thinking something like being able to see through the eyes of other animals.
Ooh,
perhaps
nice.
A falcon or some other beast that I'm able to. Would probably need to at least first touch it to be able to see through it.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Do you want to go? Where, do you know what sort of?
I think it.
Yeah.
I think it might be for. I can see it being for myself or for others. But I was thinking for NPC form, it's probably action. In so like, because I was thinking for myself, for others, it's a broad power, or it might be far-reaching, depending
I think
on how it needs to be used.
Yeah, it's a good question. So if you go broad, then it's only going to work while the animal is in your immediate area. But you'll be able to do it a little more easily, because if you're using an animal in a conflict and you're there, then and you're rolling for it, then it's basic. You can get into the conflict and be there while the animal is there, and they can protect you specifically, that kind of thing. So that's a possibility if you go broad. If you go far-reaching, then you can send animals to other places, and you can then also engage in conflicts in those other places using the animals if you so desire. So that's a possibility.
Yeah.
So that'll work.
I think. I think I'll go with for others, and we'll go with it being far-reaching.
All right.
Cool.
Very cool. I'm liking this. So we also need to then decide your character's best interests. And the way this works, and hopefully I'm going to get this right this time. I've been having, I had issues the first time around I tried to do this. But it's, essentially the idea is that each character, each PC anyway, has to have two best interests, each of which represents an attack on another character, which can be a PC or an NPC. It doesn't matter for the PCs. I kind of look at it as like in a tragedy. What does your character want most in the world? Why can't you have it? And the answer needs to be another character, basically. And so that would be sort of how you kind of tackle that. NPCs, of course, have to have best interests that are attacks on the PCs, so that's where I'm going to be aiming. And NPCs only need to generally have one. Some powerful ones can have two. The Prodigy Mage might end up having two. So that is a possibility. I have not yet decided what I wish to name the Prodigy Mage. That's the only character thus far that I think has merited a name.
Can you repeat the framework for best interests?
Yes, it's something that your character wants, or something that is in your character's best interest, but that also represents an attack on another character's best interest, or would not be in the best interest, as it were, for another character. And I think of it, like I said, as it's like something your character wants to do or accomplish. Those are the same thing. Anyway, but that this other character might have something to say about it, or it might not be. They might not like it if you do it, or they're out, or they're in your way. That's a possibility. And it's okay if first of all, the best interests do not have to be achievable. World peace could in fact be a best interest, or world destruction could also be a best interest. Let's go a little less broad than that, but that's just as sort of by way of example. The idea is that it's they can be things also that conflict with each other. It's like if you get one, then you can't get the other. You could do that if you want. They don't have to make sense even, really. But because we're talking about things that your character wants. So I'll in general the GM is supposed to start with one for an NPC, and then we sort of go around and do it. And so I'll try to do one as by way of example. Let's see, the Prodigy Mage. It would be in the Prodigy Mage's best interest. Well, as we've already stated, to get hold of the box for a dark ritual, and cast said dark ritual upon it, which I know is something that goes against Hadir.
The box with the head in it?
Yeah, the box with the head in it.
No, you can't have that. Sorry.
Well, that's where we'll see what happens. Exactly. And so that's one of the Prodigy Mage's best interests. Does anyone else have an idea for one of their characters' best interests?
Yeah. So I think Gesh also wants the head, but buried in a profane way near the altar.
Interesting. Okay.
Could you not? could you just leave that alone?
Yes.
What's in the box?
Oh. Does anyone else have an idea for a best interest?
Well, I guess my obvious best interest is for me to get that box to where it needs to go. I would quite like that without any, with minimal amount of trouble.
Can I bury my father in peace, please?
Please.
That's definitely going to be an attack on other characters' interests.
Seems that way. Well, they're attacking me, but
Oh yeah.
it's self-defense.
Self-defense. Totally. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Anyone else have a best interest? Knox, did you have one in mind?
Yeah, so I did write out the two. I'll read one for now, but I'm not sure I'm not sure how good these are, so we'll see. So the first one is that she wants to live a normal life, away from her responsibilities and pressures of being the orrery. The devils of the waste stand in the way of that because of her ability to compete with the gods, and also the existential threat they present to humanity.
Yes. So that works. Given the possible NPCs we have in play, I'd say that definitely works.
Knox, would you say that the orrery's relationship with the gods is a generally positive one?
I think it's a neutral one. Like, in my head, I imagine that the orrery views the gods as sort of like troublesome children, and she's a form of like the nanny.
Okay.
so she can't directly interfere with them or anything, but when they step on a line or their disciples step on a line, she has some ability to sort of kind of like put them in their place and say, bad god or
Pull over
whoever.
the car and sort
Yeah, so she views the gods in that sort of way of like, okay, the god of life is super great, the god of death is kind of an asshole, but that's just like his thing.
Yeah.
And
and it's also, well, they have to be roommates, so that's the problem.
Yeah. So I don't think she has like I think it's a really neutral, balanced view of them.
Oh, that totally works.
Okay.
I think that it is also in the interest of the troops to protect, essentially to protect Hadir and keep him from getting into trouble, because that's sort of really what's, they want to get this ceremony over with as well.
Finally, thank you. Someone's on my side.
Well, yeah.
Well, the Aura is traveling with you, so she's definitely on your side.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
She wants to see
And
him
the
off.
devil's offer power and knowledge. That's kind of on your side.
Yes,
Kind
entirely.
Jim, what is the Prodigy Mage's name?
We are. That is something that I am coming up with. Let's.
FantasyNameGenerator.com is your friend.
I'm gonna go with. Well, I'm right now. I'm looking at the last page of the book, and I'm gonna go with Larsa. Larsa.
Cool.
And I'm imagining that they're with the procession because maybe they were one of their battle mages. So they might have been attached to the troop as well. So they might have. I mean, they probably grew up with they probably grew up with Hadir, and know them, and are going to the betrayal is going to hurt so much more.
I'm
Wait
sorry.
a minute.
I was gonna say it was a short-lived experience of having anybody on your side.
Yes.
Quickly the tables turned.
We can only trust nature and the beasts that lie within.
This is true.
Pretty much.
Does anyone else have? Did anyone else have any? Anyone have any other best interests they wanted to go over?
Yeah, so I'm thinking it's in Gesh's best interest to somehow take Larsa as a disciple or a convert or something. You know, that's someone that is already drunk on power and looking for another high. And Gesh needs a way to extend their range beyond the waist.
Excellent. Good. Anyone else?
Not sure if it works as a best interest, but I think it would be interesting if I had an interest to, as Will put it, learn of secrets and such things. I think Adir wishes to speak with a god or someone in a place of power of some kind and learn of, I think, a secret relating to, let's say, death.
Oh, this is gonna be cool. Okay.
Maybe as a way of having like a last conversation with Hadir's father.
Yes, that sounds very good.
And I think just to add like this sort of like speed bump to that plan is that the Ori probably gets these kind of requests a lot. Like, hey, I want to talk to my dead grandma or whatever. And she's like, that's not how this works.
Right.
I can't just not a channel here. I'm not a telephone. You can't just pick me up and dial me in whenever you want.
Right.
It's not really how it works. So I think she would be resistant to help Hadir in that.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Sorry, I can't be on your side.
It's all right. I'm sensing a pattern.
Do we have any other best interests we need to fill in?
So here's my second one. This one might be really crazy. The reincarnated will of the celestial sphere wants to ascend to godhood, which would destroy. Her normal name is Ninsunu, which would destroy Ninsunu's human form and remove her from humanity, and also sever the ties humanity has to the gods.
There's so many things that could be happening.
Oh yeah, no, I like that.
Has anyone else not said their second best interest yet? Okay, I think we got everyone then.
And I wrote mine down on my the sheet on Roll20, if you need that.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, mine's typed out too.
Yes, good, cool, excellent, yeah. Well, I mean, it's more for you to remind yourself more than anything else. Yeah, no, that's I trust you for that. I will go ahead and just state so that you will know it. It is in the interest of the. It is in the interest of the altar to gain Ninsunu's power. And it is in the interest of the spirit of the war captain to find a way to end all undeath.
Not cool.
Oh, I did come up with a name for the war captain.
Oh yes, what's
My
his
father's
name?
name? It's Rais Bell.
Can you spell that for me, please?
Yes, I have put it in a place where it might be spelled.
Excellent. Rice Bell. Excellent.
That's a cool name. I like it.
Awesome. Okay. I think those are all of the basics for this thing. I think we're about ready to kick this thing off. So what we're gonna do, we got less than an hour. So it's going to be there's going to be probably a lot of very quick conflict going on here when we get into it. But what we will do before we get into it is we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to get all of my information on these NPCs entered in so that I have them to use in Roll20 real quick. I'm going to take bio breaks, grab drinks, whatever, and we shall return shortly. So see you folks in a few moments. Howdy, folks. We are back, and we are going to knock out as much In a Wicked Age as we can in the time we have left. So we're going to see how this goes. We have our initial scenario, and we're going to see what happens. So, In a Wicked Age, as they say, there is a procession that is happening through the wastes. Long ago, it is thought that there was an ocean here. There isn't one now. And this place was all high cliffs, but that's been raised down in the time since. In that time also, civilizations have risen and fallen. This caravan, or, well, processional, this military processional, is traveling now through the wastes on their way to the burial grounds that are on the far side. It's been many days, and this is the one place where you do have to cut through the wastes to get to the burial grounds. The burial grounds are essentially, there's a place where a forest starts, and not too far from there, beyond that boundary, once you hit the forest, you're out of the wastes. And then it's only a short ride from there to the burial grounds. But first, you must actually get through this particular zone first, and there are ancient ruins here in this part of the wastes. A lot of them seeming like there were villages here. You've traveled through many a dead village. No sign here of undead. These used to be undead lands, but you haven't really run into any. That's typically the only thing that survives in the wastes, aside from what they whisper every now and then at night of the Gesh.
I think as we're passing by these abandoned villages and stuff, that I adjust various baubles on my bracelets and on my necklace in a very practiced way, almost instead of doing the sort of whatever the hell this is called, I forget. It's that version for her every time she passes by places where people might have, spirits of the fallen may remain or whatever.
Yes, and that you sense that is helping to a certain extent. This is a place, actually, once you've been doing that from time to time in some of the villages you've passed, but this one that you have come into, as you see, there are many ruins. There's also up ahead, the path goes through this, what maybe was, there's enough material around that perhaps it was a castle or a citadel very long ago. And there is part of a cliff remaining up to one side, and on the other side is a drop down. And it's not like a really, really narrow path. There was a whole village sitting on this area. But the path itself goes through the sands, through the dirt, through these ruins, this old ruined keep. Perhaps it was a keep once, actually. You'll never at any point be what I think they would call indoors, really. But it's you start to see more old carved stones with different things in them. On the outskirts of this village, you did see occasionally something not unlike a symbol of a bird that someone had painted there. It's like graffiti. Or perhaps a raven. But as you go through, the winds pick up, and you start to hear this whispering, and it seems as though that something is close. There is, in fact, in this area, there just for those who may be aware of it, there's a particular altar very close by. It's in an old chamber nearby, and it is at this point that you hear that Hadir. Something you will notice amongst the there is another war captain who's heading up this troop of people. Are you all riding, or are you on foot? What do you think?
I think we've just arrived. Yes. Been kind of keeping an eye towards the sky. I believe we probably see just a single bird in the air, kind of circling around the area near.
So are you looking through it?
No, not at the moment.
Okay. So you've been riding what, horses or?
Yes, I think probably some sort of horse-like camel creature. It probably has the hump, but it's built like a horse.
Some sort of pseudo dromedary that upon which you folks have been many of you folks have been sitting. The war captain up front, whom I have neglected to name, at this point is you see them leaning down and speaking to someone. And as you're getting just into the middle of these ruins, and he raises up his hand and he's like, hold, what is it? And looks down. He comes back up. Larsa has noticed something. Apparently, there's something. We may need to hold for a moment and send a scout ahead.
Is it something in the woods? Or the area surrounding?
And he looks back down. Larsa just sort of steps forward, and she has long hair and is garbed in a sort of a very dark clothing, sort of a tunic and trousers. She has, and it's visible on her face are a number of painted symbols on her face and on the backs of her hands, and she's carrying a staff. And she looks forward, and she says, and she looks up, sort of more at the cliff, and she says, they're circling, they're around, I feel them. You must. And she's sort of like, please give me a moment. And she's sort of limping over toward a large rock and is leaning against it.
I suppose I get off my horse and get a canteen or something to offer to her, just and kind of look back towards the sky and kind of give a whistle or a sharp whistle to the bird in the sky.
Okay. Bird slowly descends in circles, going down, and
lift an arm up. It's gloved, and so it might land.
Flaps forward and lands on your glove.
Just kind of, rough, kind of stroke the plumage for a moment and look back to her and just kind of wait until she seems to be all right, and perhaps can ask another question about what's going on.
What do folks as this is where the camera is first focusing really on you and giving you that good sort of 3-button shot, What do folks see? What does Hadir look like?
He's about, I mentioned like middle-aged, 18-ish, 18, 20-ish. Has short hair, kind of, thick black hair, but it's, kept short to the, it's probably was, there's like probably a military trim or a cut that is kept, but, he's let it grow a little bit since that last time. Dark skinned and has, probably like some sort of not as fancy or as complex as the tattoos or symbols, but has just a simple one, like probably under the left eye.
Okay.
Pretty nothing too special in terms of wear, just like what might be simple and kind of keeps the elements off you.
Okay. What is Ninsunu doing right now?
I think during all this, Ninsunu's been she's been traveling. She's been keeping close to Hadir, since that's kind of why she's here, is to help honor his father. And so when she sees him walk over to Larsa, I think she's probably traveling on one of these camel horses also, but maybe hers is a little bit has ornamentals or regalia on it a little bit, which she didn't put on there herself. Everyone else is like, no, you have to have these tassels and shit. So she stops and she hops off of it, climbs down, and slowly approaches Hadir and Larsa, and kind of just looks at Larsa with this blank look, doesn't portray much emotion on her face. I think she's just trying to get a read on Larsa.
As you're approaching, what do they see? What does Ninsunu look like? Again, for reintroduce for.
Sure. So she is a young girl, somewhere 11, 13 years old. She wears dark blue robes that have the pattern of the stars kind of scattered across them. She wears thick metal jewelry at her neck, and at her wrists, and at her ankles. And she wears the robes are long, but you can see that there's puffy pants that are cuffed at the ankle that kind of show, just peek out from the bottom. And every time she walks, there's kind of this jingle from the sound of her thick metal jewelry clanking together. And at various pieces around the bangles, there's these the spheres, and they're colored different colors to represent the planets. And these are the things that she kind of twists and turns as part of her prayer gestures. But she doesn't do that right now. She just approaches, and her hands are by her side. She has dark hair, and it's up in 2 hair puffs, with matching, metal thick rings around them.
Okay. So what you're going to see, and also Gesh may feel free to interpose whenever they desire here, but what you will see, Ninsunu, as you're coming up, and Hadir may or may not notice this as well, but Larsa takes the canteen. She says, "Thank you," and she just sort of tries to sit for a moment, and she's like, and as she puts her forehead to her staff, you see that she seems to be concentrating on something, and Ninsunu, from where you're standing, she's actually, where she happens to be holding the canteen is kind of between the top of the staff and Hadir's eye line. But what you can kind of see is that the top of her staff is glowing for a moment. as this is happening, and then it stops when she lowers the canteen again, and she takes another sip, and she hands it back up to Hidir. Thank you very much.
Of course. Take the canteen back.
I think.
All right, let me jump in here real quick.
No!
Get him!
Here we go.
So it's been weeks since anyone has traveled through the waste, and so Gesh is attracted to this caravan the same way a cloud of mosquitoes would be. And when Gesh moves in, you can kind of see it by like this stirring up of dust devils, little swirly things in the sand over about a 20 or 30 foot radius. And there's a smell kind of like burning metal, and the wind picks up and drives sand into people's eyes, and it's more of a stinging annoyance than anything. But he swirls in, and he's attracted to the hunger that Larsa has for more power, and zooms in and just starts whispering in her ear, promising power, promising greatness, promising all of this secret knowledge if she'll just submit, and become Gesh's disciple.
And so the wind does indeed pick up and starts actually blowing things all around. It's going to be very difficult going at this point. And you see, after a moment, you see sort of Larsa sort of, and she's pulled up a hood, and as she's standing, she turns to Captain Natan, whom I suddenly named, and shouts, "We must seek shelter until the storm is past. This is going to tear us up." And Natan looks around. Agreed. And looking around. There? Yes. And you look and you see a place where it's almost indoors that you can walk into if you come around just a little bit around the bend. So you can get into this area of the ruins that looks like it's much better sheltered.
Yeah, it takes a bit of doing. I've got a canteen in one hand, a bird that is probably getting a little rowdy because of this.
Bird's kind of really ticked off right now.
Yeah, I probably would want to go back to the skies, but it's like, a bit, weather's not so great for that. So just trying to keep him calm and then also get back to the horse so I can get it somewhere, because it has the box attached to it in some manner. So really, really busy, a lot going on.
Before you take off, Hadir, I'm gonna tug on your shirt sleeve.
Yes.
And I'm gonna hold out my hand. Hadir, let me see your canteen.
I kind of just, look at it real quick, but just hand it to you. Sure. Yes.
And I take it and I close my eyes and I hold it close to my chest in between both my hands. And you can see like my eyes like fluttering beneath like my eyelids. Mm-hmm. And some of the round bobbly bits on my jewelry just start to spin on their own. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to communicate with one of the gods, the god that would be responsible for like truth and healing, because I want to see if Larsa has done something to this water.
All right. You are placing your call. As you are doing this, just Gesh, so you are aware. Quietly, Larsa is also communicating with you, and she has sort of seen the direction that you want to go in, which is sort of the direction she was pointing in. And she just sort of whispers to you. It sounds appealing. Can you show me?
Yes. So just fill her mind with visions of everything that she can do, just what the powers are, that she can call down spirits, and she can lay curses on people, and she can see in the dark, and she can do all sorts of these things. It's all lies, of course. I mean, Gesh has no real power, but he's weaving a very colorful story and just putting it right in her mind.
Okay. She is, yes, she's nodding, and you think she's definitely reacting to these ideas, and she's definitely sort of getting up and trying to sort of help lead everyone into this area. And if so, are you folks? The troops do seem to be moving toward the shelter. Is that where everyone else is going, or what's everyone else doing otherwise?
Well, for the moment, I'm staying with Nitsunu, just to kind of as she's doing this commute, but also trying to kind of like, I know again, Ashk, which is what I've named this falcon, she's quite again getting a bit belligerent, so hoping that this communication will be quick. Also kind of pulling at my like robe or kind of hood just to kind of hopefully keep some more of the sand out of my eyes. But
Ninsunu, are you trying to contact a specific deity, or do you just want to, or are you just sort of pinging their bulletin board?
So I'm specifically trying to reach out for the goddess that controls, that presides over like illness and healing and truth. These are like all of her domains.
Excellent. You may name this goddess if you so desire.
Her name is Kuaya. I was prepared.
Kuaya. Could you spell that for me?
Yes. I'm going to put it in the Zoom chat right now.
Just wanted to have that in front of me. Kuaya, excellent. I guessed right. So Kuaya, the presence of Kuaya comes into your mind, and you hear her voice. It is not the canteen you should be worried about. No, there are no poisons here. Not of the physical kind. Be wary.
My eyes just snap open, and I look kind of at the ground and searching, trying to process what was just given to me, because I'm not really quite understanding what she was trying to communicate. And I just hand the canteen back.
Yeah,
Let's go quickly.
Back and just kind of stumbling through words, like, did you figure something out, or right? We can get inside first, yes, and kind of return to the horses and try to direct them.
All right, whatever it is that camels.
It's probably
horses.
more like a.
Yeah. So you commune briefly with yours, and yours is fine, and then the others sort of are following suit as you kind of get them to calm down. They're ready to freak out. You're the only thing, Hadir, keeping them from like racing off the edge of the cliff right now.
Oh, please don't. Yes,
and,
just kind of whisper some words, at least to my, for sure, just to calm it down.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's kind of a general soothing attempt in the area, but really would like the one with my father's head.
No, it in particular listens, and it strides forward. The others also, you manage to kind of get them sort of in your field of thought, as it were, and get them calmed down a little bit, enough to get them to the sheltered area. So as you all head deeper into these ruins, you can see that, from where you are now, you can see that where you just passed through was something maybe like could have been a courtyard at one time, and this area, it seems as though it's got there's a definite more of a sort of tunnel theme. It looks as though actually looking around, you see as you come around the corner, you have these. So you get into this area that's got like an arched ceiling. It's got an actual ceiling that you can pass under, and that gets you out of most of it. And then the next thing you notice is that there's actually a little cave in here. It seems like, although actually it's probably it's also got an arch as its entrance. Someone built an arch that's sort of old and crumbling, but and so this too was part of the local architecture. So clearly this building, whatever it was, also went underground at one time.
Do I sense anything funky fresh in here? Any evilness?
Oh, nothing fresh. But there is a definite sense of foreboding. But you do see that you do see Larsa and Captain Natan heading in, and a couple more troops heading in. There is. It's like a feeling of something ancient, but perhaps it's an ancient thing that if there is power here, but it's very. Right now it's operating at a very low level. There's something. Maybe it's not awake, or maybe it's confined. It's hard to know.
Taking a nap. I push my mount forward so I can be next to Hadir, and I look over at Hadir. We need to be careful in here. Something doesn't feel right.
How so?
I don't know yet, but I sense something. Just watch your back.
Nod and kind of was going to kind of relax a little bit since we're inside, but kind of stay on guard still. It's going to be a long night.
Indeed.
I imagine Ashk, when we get inside, probably find something to perch upon. Finally, it's also good to not have the bird, weight on my hand. But
yes, you do actually find as you get in. It's kind of a bit of a mixed thing, really, because the good news is there are plenty of places to perch. There is plenty of room to hitch up your camel horses to. There are plenty of places to sit. The thing is, most of those places look like they are sepulchers of a sort. This area, it's like might have any corpses that would have been here are long turned to dust. But this is a place where, there definitely were bodies kept. In the walls, you can see sort of nooks for them as you're passing through into this, I'm presuming into the cave. Folks are doing this, and as you go through, you see the cave opens up into this chamber. That also, as there's a lot of dust, a lot of signs that perhaps there were bodies here once, but. You notice two things of import as you're coming in, and Larsa is lighting it magically right now. So right now she has a light source, and everyone else has torches that they're lighting up. And there are, in fact, sconces in which the Captain Natan finds that it's like, oh, okay, we can put this here. That this looks like it's fairly sturdy. It's going to hold up. But the two features, that the first one that the light falls across is something that it's like there is one thing that looks like a mummified corpse, but that's in a nearby corner, sort of not too far from the door. And the odd, and there's something that kind of weird looking about it. And I don't know if folks want to look at that, but that's there. And then the next thing your eyes fall on is there's this big stone slab in the center of the room. And that looks like it's very dusty, as though it's not had anything happening with it for a very long time. And those are the room's two main features. It looks like there were also other exits from this room at one time, but those have been blocked by rubble.
I'm doing my little silent prayer rituals, turning the beads and things as we're passing by all this.
Yeah, as when we kind of first get in, taking a look into this, kind of getting an idea of where we are and realizing that this is a large, as you could put it, sepulcher, and had intended kind of pulled back the hood and just kind of rinsing, taking some of the water and looking at it for a second, thinking about what Sunu was doing with it before and deciding that, it's probably, if there was something wrong with it, hopefully it's not anymore, and then just kind of carefully dabbing a little and kind of trying to just clear some of this sand, rough, course, gets everywhere, etc. So get rid of that.
And Gesh is whispering to Larsa that this is where they need to camp for the night and wait for the storm to blow over. This room, it has to be this room. She needs to tell the captain that.
This is the safest place in the building. She says, "Nice. This is if you can." And the captain's like, "Is it?" Yes, this was made. As you can see, this is where the supports are strongest. And he nods. Yes, we should stay here for the night then. As you can know, it is getting dark outside.
Kind of, Adir speaks up, says, "Are we sure it's wise to stay in here? This appears to be a resting place for the dead. Perhaps, it would be best to find another room to stay in."
We have this in the hallway. If you find another room, I should be very open to suggestion.
Kind of just consider that for a moment and just say, very well, I will take a look. There's not much else to do, so.
Okay. Ninsunu, as you were communing in some fashion again, were you not, or am I hallucinating that?
Not in the same way that she was before. It's basically she's like doing her prayers and counting the rosary beads, effectively, is the extent of what she's doing.
So Hadir, I think, is going to probably notice first things about this slab. Larsa is actually coming along with you and just sort of looking around with you. And she sort of puts her hand on the slab, and you're looking at it. And she sort of takes her hand away briefly, but then she puts her hand on it again. It's interesting. And you can kind of see that actually, there are carvings that look like a lot of it has been worn away. But it looks like carvings in some ancient language are on the sides of this slab.
Right.
And she looks up and she says, "This was a holy place." Ninsunu, as you're walking around sort of with your prayer beads, you do get a chance to have a better look at this mummified corpse. And it is, you notice, bigger than a person. It's something like 11 feet from end to end, as it's sort of lying there, and as far as you can tell, it's kind of hunched. And there are these sort of black chains attached to it that seem to have survived. These sort of chains that wind, not like round it, but just from it looks like it had a lot of slack. So they're not tight chains. These long, sort of ponderous chains that go from around mid arms down to the legs.
These wouldn't happen to be the chains of suffering, would they, Jim?
I don't know. They might be. They easily could be, perhaps. Have you heard of the chains of suffering?
I don't know if she's heard of them. It would depend on.
There is something familiar about them. Actually, there is something familiar about this place. But you know that you have never been here.
Right.
And yet, you have.
Yeah, there's like something like in the depths of my subconscious, probably like a voice or a feeling I've heard before and I've had to suppress. I imagine is like sparking to life in here.
Yeah.
And I'm a little confused. I think I'm gonna, as I'm looking at this, kind of twisting the various beads and things, I'm gonna step forward slowly and just reach out to touch these chains.
Okay. So, instantly, you have a feeling that comes across you. Pain and suffering.
Well,
not
surprise.
yours, but the pain and suffering of the last of an ancient race. It feels as though it is a constant, unending unlife, and an inability to do anything really beyond it. No escape. It's something that can never, perhaps can never truly die or never truly live. It's this whatever is a victim of these chains. It's very, a lot of pain and a lot of torment, and yes, these chains seem to be able to bind a soul and shall we say hold it in place for perhaps eternity.
As I'm receiving all of this, I just start to unknowingly like cry, like tears start to run down my face. And I'm gonna twist the chain up in my hand and try and yank it off.
All right. As you do this, you reach forward, you grab it, you pull the chains, and the corpse disintegrates before your eyes. You now have the chains of suffering, though you are not wearing them. They are not affecting you, but they are available. Now, too, also, whilst that is happening, toward the middle of the room, closer, as Hadir has gone over to set Ashk on a perch, and is sort of working on tying up their horse. You notice Larsa is helping you, and sort of is come forward and is trying to help you get stuff off your camel horse.
Right.
You do note that she is reaching for the box and trying to take it off of the camel horse.
I tried to kind of politely, I just kind of put a hand on hers and say, well, actually, I think it's like maybe a little too quick, but trying to be polite, but just kind of put my hands on the box and then kind of lift it slowly, like, oh, do not worry, I can get this. It might be best if it stays on the horses even. Don't want to misplace it.
And she says very quietly, no, there is a much greater possibility here. And as she does, her hands also touch the box, You've got it, but her hands are also on it. At this point, you see that the sigils, the protective sigils on the box, are starting to burn to life. At the same time, everyone in the room will note that sigils on the altar are also burning to life. And it seems as though something is about to happen. It seems as though Larsa is attempting to take the box. It seems as though something is about to happen. There's some sort of whispering going throughout the room that perhaps is trying to cause a thing to happen, and the troops that are in here are a little bewildered, and there's a chanting. There's a chanting that seems to be coming from the altar.
I think as the sigils start to glow, I kind of pull back, and I think also Ash kind of intercedes in a manner of speaking, just kind of swoops down and is kind of flapping and squawking about between us. But
there is now a conflict.
Yeah.
As
you do.
As everyone is now trying to do something. So it's clear that Larsa is trying to do something that might involve a ritual in this box. It's clear the altar is trying to do something that's like involving a ritual and this box. It seems that there are the troops are kind of bewildered at the moment, and are not sure what to do right now. But they're trying to generally they'd lean toward helping Hadir more than anyone else right now. Ninsunu is noticing all of this. Gesh, of course, is very much noticing all of this and is in a position to take advantage of it. So, and it's to sort of decide what sort of you want to do, and we're going to go to our conflict. This is an eldritch fight.
It'd be a regular fight, not an eldritch one. I've heard bad things about eldritch, and so
slightly eldritch. So here's the deal. Everyone must decide what sort of in general their idea of what they're doing, choose their forms, and make their declarations, and we shall see how this goes. We shall do PCs first. As Hadir is kind of at the center of this thing, you've kind of said what you're doing, but what are you doing and with what forms?
Well, I'm trying to keep this kind of pull away from Larsa and kind of keep the box somewhere like close to me if I can. So I suppose that it's definitely directly probably for myself.
Okay. And so that's what you're gonna roll.
Okay.
And Ninsunu, what are you doing and with what forms?
Shit. Yeah, as I see like this small struggle between Larsa and Hadir, and the sudden glow of symbols on the box, and then the boom, the glow on the altar. Shit, I don't know.
I can come back to you.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I have no idea what I want to do.
Think of a couple of forms. We'll be rolling those now. We'll say what you do. Gesh, what are you sort of aiming at here?
Well, I think Larsa at this point is pretty much on Team Gesh. Gesh doesn't need to focus so much on her, so they will start whispering in Hadir's ear that this is a holy place. This is a significant place. This is a. Did I lose my mic? Is that on this side?
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a holy place, and his father would be honored by being left here. So, going to try to convince him to let Larsa take the box.
Ah, okay. So that's happening there.
Yeah, so that's covertly, and it's for myself because I want the box.
All right. Yeah, like I said, troops are generally trying to protect. They're going to be. This is more of a. Yeah, they're not sure. It's either going to be action or self-protection. I think, since they're not completely sure what's going on right now, they're going to be more aiming at self-protection. The altar is. I think definitely moving with maneuvering here, and let's see. Larsa is. Let's see. Yeah, no, this is action. This is action for Larsa. Nox, have you thought of what it is that you're doing?
Yeah, so I think I want to try to figure out. I want to get a sense for what power Larsa is drawing on that's motivating her, and or that's created this link between her and the altar, or the box and the altar. So I'm trying to find these like threads of power that are in the air.
All right. So you're trying to identify and possibly deal with them. All right. And what forms are you using?
Would that be a directly kind of thing?
It could be. Yeah. If you're seeing these sort of direct things.
I'm not trying to be secretive about it.
Well, you could do it covertly. If you want to be secretive about it, then it's covertly. Or you could,
Oh, you know what? No, I know. Sorry. This would be for others.
Okay, for others, and you get one.
Yeah. Oh, right. For others, and I think I'm gonna go with love, because I'm doing it because I see that some bad shit's getting ready to go down. I'm doing this as like a protective measure for the love of like my fellow humanity and my fellow man, and because what we're trying to do is a holy and right thing, and what's going on here is clearly unholy and not right. So with love and for others.
All right. Everyone, please roll your forms.
So we just roll them at the same time, like together, one after the other, I guess.
Yeah, just one after the other. Yeah.
Oops, I screwed that up. There we go.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and if you're using a particular strength, you can also roll that.
I missed what Hadir was doing.
I was trying to kind of get away from Larsa, I believe, was.
Yeah, he was trying to keep her from getting the box, basically, among other things.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
It seemed like, her touching it kind of sparked this whole thing off. The sigils on the box and in the room seemed to have lit up when she had done so. So just trying to get away from her.
Larsa is also using her particular strength.
Would I? Yeah, I don't think I would be able to use my particular strength because it's for others. Probably.
Oh yeah, if you're not using for others, then
yeah.
that's what it's tied to.
This is for, this whole thing is for my father's wishes, and for go.
If that's your motivation, then you could roll that instead.
Okay, I think I will do that.
All right.
Well, it looks like Jim's rolling like shit, so we might be okay.
Okay. Larsa's particular strength is her is obviously her magical spell casting ability that has to do with ritual magic.
That's a lot of ones.
Uh-huh.
That is many
Wow.
ones, so that means that I'm going to be answering a lot of things. And also, I need to figure out who rolled each thing. Well, no, everyone rolled something different, so that'll help me. It's if you rolled a particular strength, you take whichever are your highest 2 dice, and those are your what you got. So you don't need to look at the third necessarily. So let's see. We have let's see. Nox got a 9 and a 6.
No, a 9 and a 4.
Oh no, oh, that's right. You did 4 others instead of 4 others. So a 9 and a 4. And Gesh got a 9 and an 8. Will got an 8 and a 3. And unless Will, did you want to? You said you were going to change which form you were using.
Yes, right. I thought I'd just wait for Windsurf to have some more rules to do, but
You can go ahead. Okay, so let's see so I've got, and I've actually got a 9 plus 1 for my particular. Oh no, that's wrong. Duh, I'm thinking of the wrong thing. So a 9 and a 1. I've got a 9 and a 1, a 1 and a 1, and a 4 and a 2. And far-reaching for others. Okay. So Will got an 8 and a 3, basically, is what it comes down to. This looks as though Gesh is going for it's Gesh's move. So Gesh gets to decide who answers, and so what are you doing, and who answers? They're going to have to beat this roll that you made already of 9 and an 8.
So Gesh is whispering in Hadir's ear to release the box, to bury his father here, and that will be a good and glorious and honorable thing. So Hadir needs to answer.
Okay.
No. Get away from Hadir.
I kind of think that's it.
Okay. So he's trying to subvert Hadir's will. So Hadir, what you're going to do is you pick your dice back up that you were using, and you roll them again, and you're trying to beat a 9 and an 8.
okay, so roll the same for myself, for others, and my particular strength.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I mean, it wasn't for myself. It was directly originally, but yeah.
Oh. Aw.
All right. So you got an 8 and a 4, basically, and so you are, since you're also trying to, you're sort of trying, as you're also in communication with the animals here, as you're trying to sort of use them to help you not get subverted. This means you're still in it, but you are not, and so it's still going on, but Gesh gets the advantage. So Gesh, narrate for me how it is that what it is that's happening to him. You have not won yet, but where you get the advantage, he's still in it.
So Gesh is just sort of whispering images into Hadir's mind of how much honor his family will gain, his father will gain by having his father's remains buried here in this holy, this sacred place.
All right, so I would say that merits that Hadir is starting to kind of see this a little bit as this is starting to look a lot like where you're supposed to Hadir. This is starting to look a lot like where you're supposed to bury the head.
Maybe say that the sigils on the outside of the box kind of line up with some of the sigils that are on the altar, or I'm sorry, the stone slab.
The stone slab.
Some of those sigils line up, and so Hadir is maybe seeing a connection there, that maybe there is something to this.
Right.
All right. So Hadir is not out, but he's there. But let me also remind me. Let me see. You had a D8, a D12, and a D4. You're rolling against a D12, a D10, and a D10. So that means that Hadir is going to go on the. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, I came in with my big guns, so I'm not gonna go on the list.
Yeah, but Hadir will, because you're still in it, and so we just need to put on the O list. You can cash this in. This means either you're going to make it to the end of this scenario, for sure, or you can cash this in and get an advantage die. So it's up to you, Hadir, if you wish to be on the. If you want to either have survivability or an advantage die for your next round.
I think I'll go with the advantage die.
Alrighty. So just note, I'm going to go ahead and take you off the O list, and just note that you'll get to roll the advantage die next round, as just as Gesh will. So next in the action, looking back at everyone else, we had let's see, Gesh is gone. We had Ninsunu, and Ninsunu had the next highest dice, so it's your move, Ninsunu. What would you like to do?
Is this like another round of conflict, or am I just like picking up and I'm not sure.
This is another. Yeah, you're not confined by time here necessarily very much. You can sort of, so it's not like how much can you do in a round. This is more. This is like, you see, this stuff has already come to pass. There are more things perhaps about to come to pass. This is your point in the narrative to do a thing.
So I still want to try to see if I can figure out if I can, see these threads of power. Okay. I'm still trying to figure out what the connective tissue is between Larsa, the box, and the slab.
I would say that Gesh and the slab probably need to answer, and probably Larsa does as well, because that involves everybody that you're kind of targeting here. Does that sound reasonable to you?
So that means they all roll against me?
Yes, they do.
Oh shit! Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, Gesh, you are trying to beat a 9 and a 6.
No, a 9 and a 4.
9 and a. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I keep noting. Yeah, 9 and a 4.
That's okay. I wish it was a 6.
So can Gesh kind of make an effort to obscure the connection of things?
That's what you're doing as you're in your role. Yes, absolutely.
So it's pretty much the same role I did before. Does advantage apply here, or does that only apply against Hadir?
That should be. I'm gonna say that it's the next round that it's gonna kick in.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna say that it's against everything, but it's gonna be next round when you get there.
Okay.
Okay. And so you did not beat the 9, but you are still in it. And so Ninsunu, how much have you noticed at this point with respect to Gesh? It's something that you haven't won outright, but but you've gotten you get the advantage on it.
I think that I hear the whispers. Not in my own mind, but like through the ether.
Okay.
And that's kind of tipping me off that there's an unseen player in these events.
All right. I'm gonna have Larsa make her response, where she is trying, and she does not make it, but she's still at least half of what you had, so she's still in it. What have you noticed about Larsa?
I think with Larsa, it's like almost some like syneth. Oh shit! How do you say that?
Synesthesia?
Thank you. It's like that where I can hear it, but I can also sort of see it. And so I hear the whispers first, and then I see them flowing into Larsa. Yeah.
Awesome. And let me just roll for the altar here. And they got they have 3 and a 6. Okay, so it's a 6, so it's still at least half. So again, you're still advantaged, but they're still in it. So what do you notice about the altar?
I think I notice that the altar has a will, and it's hungry, and it wants something.
Okay. You have pieced all of these things together. You will have an advantage die next round. And that is everybody except the troops. The troops are the only ones who have not had to answer to anything. So let's see. They're gonna try to seeing kind of what's going on. And seeing that that there's something weird, something funky going on with this altar. they're basically going to. Some of them are probably going to go up and try to stab at it or something to see if that does anything. So they're going to try to do something the altar has to answer. They're running with self-protection because they're a little scared right now, but they're trying to figure it out. Didn't expect to fight right now, and that is a 6, which the altar had. The altar was going with maneuvering. So yeah, that's basically it's a 3 and a 6. That's a roll off basically. So I'm gonna say since they're NPCs, there's sort of a thing where the troops are now sort of like in this tug of war of energies as they're trying to approach it, but they're having trouble approaching the altar. It's like it's keeping them away. And we go into the next round. I think that everybody has advantage except for except for the NPCs. So
Does Hadir have advantage?
No, Hadir has. I think Hadir
He
also.
spent his.
I did. Yeah, I
Well,
spent
no,
it for it.
he doesn't have advantage, but he. That's right. He does have advantage because he took it off the O list. So everyone has advantage. So go ahead and roll your forms.
Oh, one thing. Sorry, go ahead.
I'll go for it.
Okay. I was going to ask. One thing I was a little unclear on was I able to get away from Larsa, or because I was trying to get away from her, but I know also Gesh was kind of doing
you were interrupted
whispers.
in your attempt,
Mhm.
and both of you seem to be directing things toward the altar a little bit, so you haven't gotten away from her,
Okay.
but you still are holding the box. Because she also wasn't able to. She had to answer, so she also was not able to take it away from you. So let's see. Yeah, go ahead and.
Are we rolling the same
Pretty much,
traits?
yeah, it's the same traits unless you're doing something drastically different. If you are, let me know.
Okay.
Something else.
I'm doing something slightly different, but it's going to be the same roll, so I'll just deal with it after the roll.
If I could I'm not sure if perhaps I could instead go for others with love. I believe I hear these whispers that Gesh is speaking about. This will be better. Your father's the remains be here, and he'll be honored. And
Yeah.
I'm
good.
kind of declining this. Kind of no. This is, he wished to be, buried at the coast. To the south where we're traveling, and if there's one thing I'm going to do is going to be respect his last wishes. And so,
All right.
yeah.
Go right ahead.
Okay. And I can roll the advantage as well, yes?
Yes, that's that.
Okay.
I definitely rolled like poop this time.
Okay, I was muted. Ha ha ha.
Oh, I was like, why is Jim so quiet?
Yeah,
He's
sorry.
really working hard over
I
there.
was sending a secret message. Just for timing in, folks. And let's see. I gotta roll my stuffs, which once again, there. Larsa is trying to drag the thing closer to the altar and get what she needs done. And let's see. The altar itself is trying to also pull the thing closer to it. And then the troops are basically trying to overcome what's happening with the altar. So they rolled that. Okay. And now, once again, quickly rechecking our secret messages. Okay, good. All right. So let me see let's see what everyone rolled here. I
Gesh
think
got
that,
a 15 and 4, or a 17 and a 4.
let's see, yeah, Gesh got a 17, so that's definitely, I think, in the lead here. Let's see. The Hadir got a 14, and that's a 5 and a 3 for Ninsuno. My next highest is a 9, which that's Larsa. So yes, what's Gesh doing? What's your move?
So I could either eat the orrery, or just keep pushing.
Wait, what did you say? Hold on, repeat that.
Well, I have a total that's more than double yours.
Did you say eat the orrery?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She'll have another chance. She'll have a chance to answer, so she's gonna roll again if you. But
You
yeah,
mean like nom nom eat, or is this a game mechanic?
could be nom nom.
Oh
Yeah,
boy.
It's kind of a psychic nom nom.
Psychic nomery.
No. Gesh will just keep pushing Hadir. That this is a good place. This is a better place than the coast. Your father would love you for leaving him here.
All right, so Gesh is trying to overcome Hadir's will, and
Trying to definitely overcome the love, because that's
and so that's definitely a thing. Anyone else answering, or just Hadir right now?
yes, just Hadir.
Okay, Hadir, these energies are pouring into you. You're definitely aware there's something going on here, but there's also these voices are whispering in your ears. So you need to pick your dice back up and roll, and we got to see what you get.
Okay. Do I still get to roll the advantage?
You still get to roll the advantage die. Yes.
Okay. Here we go.
Okay, so their highest total is a 10, which is still at least half of 17, so you're still in it. Again, Gesh retains the advantage on that. So if you two would sort of describe kind of how Gesh is manipulating Hadir, I guess pretty much you can control now pretty much what Hadir is seeing, I would say, at this point, probably.
So Gesh can sort of see the mental images that Hadir is trying to raise, pictures of the coast and burying his father there, and Gesh is just sweeping them aside. No, the coast is stormy and the cliffs wash away, and this is safe, this is good, this is where his father needs to be.
Hadir is probably going to. Well, it's up to William how Hadir responds to this, but this almost overwhelming sense is there that's happening, and you do feel as though it would be just so much easier if you could just put the box down and just bury it here. Then you wouldn't have to worry about anything else at this point. So the struggle continues. Next on our top 40 here. Next on our list, we have since Hadir had to answer, that was the action for the round. So next, it's coming up to Larsa, and so Larsa is hearing this, is going to try to. It wants to. Again, Hadir is going to have to answer for this. I'm so sorry, Hadir. It's going to try to pull the box down over to the altar to try to get it down there where it needs to make contact with the ground for Gesh's wishes to be realized. So, Hadir, go ahead, and you're rolling this time against a 9 and a 6.
Okay.
Ooh, okay, so Okay, let's see. Your advantage brings your highest roll up to a 6, which is a lucky thing because then that means you're still in it.
Oh my goodness. Oh boy.
But Larsa gains the advantage. So she doesn't pull it completely out of your control, out of your grasp. Your hands are still on the thing, or you're still able to get at it. But you can feel it going down, the box going down. And it's getting very close to the ground. It's like she's pulling it down, perhaps sorcerously, and it is about to make contact with the earth. And she will get an advantage die next round. And next on our list of things going on, let's see. Looking back, what did we get? There's a 5 and a 3, and then there's a 5 and a 5, and so that is maneuvering. That is the altar, which I don't think has been had anything happen to it this round yet. So
I will also say I probably at some point shouted out at Larsa to get away from me if that spurs the captain's guard or anyone else to action in my.
They're aware. They're now aware, although they're struggling against this force field type thing that seems to only be letting you and Larsa in right now. But they're gonna get a turn. Yeah, the altar is going. I think the altar wants something kind of specific here, and so seeing where the box is headed, is actually going to try to is aiming at. Both Larsa and Hidir, and you hear another voice, a second voice coming in, and it says, "No, on the altar. That's where it goes. That's the easiest place to put it. That's where everything will be quite all right." And so it's against a 5 and a 5. So Hidir gets to roll one more time. And Larsa does as well.
William is going to never join another online game sight unseen ever. Sorry, man.
Well, I definitely know how this one goes. At least, maybe not this one, but it's exciting. It's exciting.
So let's see. We got a lot of no pressure.
No pressure.
So let's see. Yeah, you got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you got a 12 versus the 5s, and so actually you knock the altar out of this equation entirely. Larsa also got a 10, so I mean that's fine. So in your answer, you actually have managed to do this. So what is it that happens to the to the altar as it's not? Yeah, it's actually it's lost completely. So what do you think happens as a result of it failing to manipulate you?
Well, it seems to be largely mental. I think probably it's a case of this voice being just forced out of my mind. Okay. Perhaps some clarity is regained on my end.
And you hear just very faintly, "No, not again! I'm not being forced out again." And the altar dims as this is going on, and
the sigils on the box dim as well, or just the
just the altar right now. No, there's more going on than just the altar trying something.
Oh yes.
And at this point, let's see. Of everyone else, let's see. We had a 5 and a 2, which was the troops, and So and also a 5 and a 3. So Ninsunu is next. Ninsunu has not been targeted this round. What's Ninsunu doing? What's your move?
So I am going to try to wrap the chain around my forearm as much as possible to give me some more leverage on it, because I'm going to drag it with me. I'm going to start running towards the altar. And when I get to it, I'm going to swing the chains over the altar and start wrapping it around it in an effort to contain, whatever foulness lies within.
Excellent. So the altar is answering, although the altar is pretty much done.
Okay, I got a lot of length on that chain, and I can always use it for other targets later.
This is true. So let's see, the altar is pretty much done, and so I'm gonna say that, at this point, actually, what I will note is that, I think that this would still suit Gesh's purposes, even if the altar is pretty much snuffed out here in and of itself. The altar still kind of needs to be there, but it's Gesh is working on a different level, from a different plane, shall we say, from what the altar is working on, which I will explain at the end here. So yes, you just wrap the chains around it, the lights go out completely. As soon as you sense that the chains of suffering have encased a new soul. A different soul. A very specific one. And so it's basically down to the troops. The troops now, no longer held by the altar, are still trying to kind of advance and hack at this thing, which they come up forward and they do a little bit. And that actually, I think Gesh might wish to answer that, because it's like, okay, it's fine if it's still there, but it needs to be at least in one piece. So I think Gesh probably should answer that. And that's versus a 5 and a 2.
Okay, so as soon as they step forward and they start hacking on the altar, which Gesh has noticed is turned off, Gesh will turn their attention to the soldiers. So I'm gonna try to give them visions as well. I'm gonna change this up a little bit. So covertly for visions, for myself, because there's no one else, and with violence. And do I get advantage?
Well, remember, you only use 2 forms when you're...
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. So it's going to be...
Which of those 2 do you want?
Covertly and for myself, sorry.
Sure, absolutely. No, that's fine. All right, and that does beat their roll. So kind of as you answer it, what happens to the troops? They're still in it, but and you can retaining your advantage.
I'm basically I'm whispering in their ears about stories of troops of old who, when facing impossible odds, chose self-sacrifice rather than just getting cut down.
No.
Yeah, so I'm trying to convince them to turn the blades on themselves.
So it's very interesting how this looks to Hadir and Insinu, because it looks like they just sort of stop and the blades are turning and they're backing from the altar, and they're starting to, looks like there may be some ritualistic suicide about to happen. They don't seem to have any control over it. Final round. This is where everything is finally decided. The halves drop out of the conflict, so if you win absolutely. So this is when it's easiest to get knocked out. Once again, choose your forms and roll them.
And I'm guessing I don't have my advantage anymore.
Let's see. You lost did you lose the last conflict?
I seem to have dealt with the altar, so I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, you got the altar. So actually, you got the other. So yeah, actually, you still have advantage.
Okay, excellent.
So we can change up what we roll if our game plan changes a lot too.
I am saying yes. It's kind of bending the rules a bit, but I'm fine with it.
Gotcha.
I think think I'll be sticking with the for others with love, but I guess that's what I get for putting my D12 in for others and the D8 in for myself. I didn't entirely think that through, but
I'm not sure why that rolled covertly
Happened to me the
twice.
first time I played.
So, okay. Sorry, I'm trying to decide between. So directly is when you're doing something like directly at somebody. Is that?
Typically, yes. If you're there's a line, there's a straight line, and you're headed in that direction, whether physically or metaphorically.
Okay. I think I know what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna use my special thingamajigger, my particular strength.
Okay.
I just don't think covertly works here for me, because it's like, well, I mean, Gesh is using covertly, but that's more like,
Yeah, well, that's
dishonest whispers.
Yeah, Gesh is disembodied.
Yeah.
Well, actually, for that, there would have to have been a body in the first place. Let's see. All right. So we've got. Let me pull up these things. See who's been knocked out. The altar's been knocked out. I should have crossed that off. There we go. The altar doesn't get a roll, and so Larsa and the troops get rolls here. All right. Larsa is action. Trying to force that box down to the ground, and the troops are trying not to kill themselves, which is also self-protection. All right. Now, looking these up. Whoa, okay.
There's going to be some dead troops here in a
Troops
second.
are not doing well. Okay. So let's see. Gesh had a 10, a 13.
A 13 and a 7.
13 and a 7. Let's see, we've got a, for Hadir, we have a 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Also a 13, and a 6. And Ninsunu has a 9 and a 6. So, and once again, I've got 6 and a 2 and a 1 and a 1. So Gesh goes first. Once again, what is Gesh's move here?
Going to finish the job and convince Hadir to leave the box here.
All right, aiming at Hadir.
So Hadir has to answer.
Hadir, this is for the entire enchilada and a head in a box. Hadir, please roll against a 13 and a 7. Oh, okay. So that is at best a 10, which unfortunately, it being the final round, he is going to get knocked out of the conflict. So,
Well,
what happens?
The back and forth is kind of finally taken its toll, and Hadir has this kind of shell-shocked look on his face, and he kind of slowly leans down, Larsa is still pulling on the box, right?
Yeah, she's trying to.
So Hadir will just sort of lean into her and then release the box.
All right. It's about to hit the ground. Sorry, go ahead.
I want to know Hadir's POV in this scene.
What is Hadir's POV in this scene?
I think it's largely it's been this physical struggle with Larsa that's been kind of really just stymied or exasperated by Gesh's just like mental temptations, and just as was put, it's like this just very tired, very shell shocked, very tired eyes look. He just kind of loses his grip on the box and just arms his side and kind of just head down, just very like shocked and tired look, and just kind of just not really saying anything or doing anything, but kind of just watching as this all happens, sort of no longer really in control.
Ninsunu, it is your move.
So I whip around from the altar, sensing that is a a threat no longer. And I turn back around and I watch as the guards appear to be, something that's clearly not an action that they would take, turning their own weapons on themselves. I'm watching as Hidir is lowering this box. Larsa just kind of looks crazed. And I take a couple steps forward, and I think I can still sort of hear the whispers and see the threads of Gesh's, abilities and influence. And I just look down at the ground. I suddenly feel overwhelmed with not anger or rage, but just sorrow over this evil influence that I'm not able to help and what's happening to Hidir. And I think at this point I feel like this bright, warm energy pulsing inside of me and moving out through my fingers and up into my head and down to the tips of my toes. And as I slowly pick my head up, my eyes are glowing bright white, and light just starts shooting out of my fingers and out of the tips of my toes. And I open my mouth wide, and it's just in a scream, this like yell, and it's not my own voice, and out is just this column of white light. And I reach a hand up into the air to try to grab Gesh and pull him down into physical reality and snuff out his influence. And this is the spear manifesting itself outward from me.
All right, sounds like Gesh needs to answer. You got to. This is versus a 9 and a 6.
Please roll a little bit.
Okay, so I'm not thinking I can like answer this covertly. I'm thinking this is like a direct kind of thing, right?
Yeah, this is it's a direct attack on you. That's true.
I mean, I would say if like one of the soldiers tried to swing a sword at me, it wouldn't work. But she's obviously got connections that can physically summon us. I'll say directly and with violence, because Gish is really trying to avoid that.
Okay.
Of course, these are my terrible dice, so directly with violence.
Okay. That does not beat it. So Gesh is knocked out of this conflict. So, what happens? What does it look like when this occurs?
I think from my point of view here, I feel like as I lift my hands up, the white beams turn into like giant claws that only Gesh can see. To any outsider, it just looks like shooting beams. But from Gesh's vantage point, it looks like these claws come out, and they just almost like a sieve just scrapes through the air, and just you feel like the white hot energy bring you down to the earth, and like a tendon snapping, your sort of psychic influence cuts off from the soldiers and Hidir and Larsa.
And in physical form, Gesh looks like an ugly, malformed chicken, just about that size, can barely hold his own bulbous head up, and just kind of slumps over to the ground.
Now, funny thing is, what we have left are Larsa and the troops. What I think is going to happen, as a result, let me just make a quick roll, because the troops are going to try to stop a thing from happening. And Ninsunu may roll as well if she wishes. Larsa's still trying to manipulate the box at this point.
So do I pick two traits? Is this just like another round of conflict, basically?
Yeah, essentially, it's just the same. But she doesn't actually get to roll again, so it's because no one addressed her, so it's versus a 6 and a 2.
Okay. Well, then I'll just stick with the same stuff, I think. what did I roll? It was directly and for others, right?
I think so.
And then my little special ability thing. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, no, you're good. So, and also the troops had to answer, so that was, they were going with self-protection, but we'll, sort of see. Yeah, they're okay. They don't beat her, so they don't get there in time, but, Ninsuno, you're right there, so, what happens? You see her, she's trying to get it down onto the earth and command something with it.
I don't even move from my spot, just from where I'm at. I just swing my arm upwards, and this crescent beam of white light fires off, and I think severs Larsa's hands.
Ah! Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, can't complete the ritual unless she actually puts it down there. So she draws back bloody stumps, and she's like, ah! And she falls down and passes out. And then the chamber itself, at this point, falls silent. And there's nothing, and then there is nothing but the silence for a moment. And the troops, Captain Natan, sort of being shaken out of it. They grab Larsa, they grab up this thing, and the head is once again safe. Hadir awakens and is able to do with the head whatever he wishes. Presumably protect it.
Yeah, probably was, kind of get snapped out of that stupor and kind of scramble towards the box and kind of grab it from, and they crawl back just away from this altar and just kind of in a corner, just kind of half, it's this kind of crazed or dazed energy, just dazed and confused, just kind of looking at the rest of the room.
Yes. And so this has in and of itself, this has actually been dealt with, and the head of Rais Bell has been protected, and and Gesh has been removed from the playing field and is no longer an obstacle. So too has the soul of an ancient wizard once known as Yorick, that had been bound into the altar after some time to protect it. So too has it been confined to the chains of suffering, and in so doing, the soul of the last celestial giant, Kshainimas, has been freed. And that's essentially how it happened. Well,
Yay!
folks, thank you so much for playing. I'd like to go around once more and ask for a quick little epilogue, should there be one, for these characters and for what happened. I don't think Gesh was necessarily destroyed in this, per se, so we'll whip round. I'm actually going to go, let's see, who wants to start, I'll say, to tell me what happens to your character, ultimately. What happens?
I can do it because I think it's the most straightforward.
All
So after a moment of stunned stupor, Gesh dematerializes again, goes back into spirit form, and flees the place, and spends the next several weeks out in the waste, just hiding, both from anybody else that could come in there and from potential reprisals from the altar, until Gesh can gain their strength back.
Excellent. And so you continue to go around. What happens to Ninsunu?
I want to hear Hidir's story first.
All right. What happens? Okay, then in that case, what happens to Hidir?
Well, I think we eventually do reach the coast and kind of have this, ceremony and send off my father. And I think it was mentioned that I could either like the advantage, or do you kind of end up passing at some point? I suppose. I think it's probably a bit ambiguous, but it's just like, I think probably spend some time looking out at the coast, and have Ashk there and kind of just watching the oceans and the sunset and all that, and leave it at that.
So it is. And finally, what is it that we see happening with Ninsunu in the end?
So, after that whole thing happened, Ninsunu's this light form she's taken on kind of fades, but it's ever present with her. When she speaks, it's still not her voice; it's like echoes, and she seems even more distant and withdrawn, and like some kind of otherworldly creature. And she promises to still fulfill her responsibilities with Hadir, and follows him and his procession to the coast. Says the rites, the funerary rites or whatever, they're appropriate. And then she leaves Hadir, bids him farewell and a happy life. And she returns to the wastes. And that journey of returning to the waste, Ninsunu is constantly fighting to keep a lid on this force inside of her that is begging to be released. And so she returns to the wastes, and over the course of that journey, that force kind of returns back fuller and closer to its first appearance, and she takes up residence in the wastes as the guardian of the wastes, there to make sure that Gesh does not return and torment others in the future.
Excellent.
And
Oh, that's going to need another session.
If I might add something,
Mhm.
I think Hadir would ask. Sorry, I'm cutting out. I think Hadir would ask you, Shunu, about if you would take Ashk with you to the waste. I think he just leaves it a bit ambiguous about he's not sure if he's going to need her anymore.
yeah, I think Insunu is confused by that request, or like doesn't understand it. She doesn't press Hadir on it, and Ash just kind of, I imagine, just like cruises along overhead and accompanies her back to the wastes.
Yeah, I think when he asked that, his eyes seem sharp like a hawk's, and like he kind of, as when you accept his request, kind of closes his eyes, breathes a sigh, and when you look again, his eyes seem normal. But yeah.
Nice. Excellent. Thank you all so much. This has been In a Wicked Age, and it is much appreciated that you folks have very, very patiently came in, and once we got going, we played, and I think it was very cool. So thank you for that.
Very dramatic.
Yes.
What happened?
very
Very
dramatic.
Excellent. We loves the drama. So, thank you so much for playing, everyone. This time I'm going to go around the opposite way that I went at first, which I think I started with Nox, so I'm going to start with Will this time. And ask folks, say how you're doing, what you thought of the game, and where people can find you, should they be looking. And so we will start with our horde of demons. Will.
This was good. I'm a big fan of the way that Baker puts stuff together. I'm a fan of his other games. The dice mechanic on this are a little wonky, but I think they work. I thought it was great. I liked it a lot. As far as finding me, you don't need to.
You will always be hiding just
I'll
in
always
the
be
darkest
out there
parts of the
somewhere
wastes.
whispering.
Yes. Excellent. And William, same question. How you doing? What'd you think of the game? And where can folks find you, should they so desire?
I'm doing well, and I thought the game was a lot of fun. I hadn't played it before. I've played some. I've actually played much of Baker's games. I guess I've played a lot of Firebrands, so I do quite like, the work he's done. And it's really a lot of fun. You can find me at the Twitter listed, displayed, but not on there too much. But I also do some voice work stuff. So if you have need for that, you can tweet at me. Otherwise, you guys suppose you could look to the skies.
Yes. Excellent. And finally, Nox. Once again, how you doing? And what do you think of the game? And where can folks find you online?
I liked it. It was a lot of fun. It's fun to branch out into genres that one you don't see represented a lot in tabletop role-playing games, but also just something that I wouldn't willingly maybe choose to play, wouldn't pick up for myself. So I really appreciate jumping in on stuff like this. But I really like these sort of prompt-driven games. The King is Dead. I got to play a pre-release version of that, which is also prompt-driven. Fall of Magic is prompt-driven. Like, that kind of shit just always is so fun. And really ends up creating some really cool stuff. You can find me on the Twitter at NoxNoctua, where I tweet about role-playing games, my life, politics, whatever. I play in a lot of games on the internets. So if you follow my Twitter, you can see what those games are. And I run, so far, just one game on my personal channel, Fable Tales, all one word. You can follow Fable Tales on Twitter at Fable_Tales. And I run a game there every other Saturday with a bunch of real-life friends. And we play a fantasy age game in their Blue Rose setting, and we're playing through an adventure right now, and that's been a lot of fun.
Awesome, excellent. One day I must actually get to play. I must try to play Fall of Magic, because I have the box, I have the freaking game, and I have never had a chance to play it yet. Well, folks, once again, I'm Jim. I liked this session quite a lot. I think that everybody brought it, and it was great getting to see just the depth of character and description in this one. It was really cool. I mean, I'm always pleased when I run this game, but I just really liked how this story was told. And again, these things coming together, it comes together just like magic. It's very cool to see these disparate elements that we throw out and see them come back around and what happens to them. But you can find me at OtherDoc on Twitch and Twitter. My website is jimyesthatjim.com, where you can find my Geek Observation podcast and links to my various other podcasts, audio dramas, writings, and such. On Twitch, Tuesday evenings, I'm on Off the Table playing Urban Shadows. On this channel, next weekend, I'm going to be playing Thimbleweed Park on Friday afternoon and We Happy Few on Saturday morning. We normally play the Cold Ruins of Last Life on alternate Saturdays, but that didn't happen yesterday. Real life reared its ugly head and we had to cancel. So we'll be picking that campaign back up again Saturday, October 6th. But in the meantime, 1 week from today, on Sunday, September 30th, we'll be closing out the month with a one-shot of Rosette Diceless. That's a new RPG published by Future Proof Games. One of its designers, Melissa Avery Weir, will be here running a Southern Gothic scenario for us called Still Waters Run Deep. I am very excited for that, really looking forward to it. When we go to the end card, I think I'm going to send a raid over to Grimjack21502's channel, where they're doing the season finale of Project Athena. That's a really good Call of Cthulhu thing that he's been running for a while out there. It's very cool. But in the meantime, thanks so much for watching, folks. Take care, and I will see you all of a sudden. Farewell!
Bye!